We will be starting in a few minutes. I will remind everyone if we could turn off the mics, please. And video. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 33rd session of Council this Monday, August the 24th. Council has been in session for the last hour in closed session, and I will call the meeting to order. And now it's 7 o'clock, and ask all members of Council to indicate their presence. And I'll do so in the order that they appear on my screen. So I will start with Councillor Proderick.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Parks.
Present.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hagedorn.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Porter.
Present.
Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gordon, are you with us? I can't hear you.
Present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Townend.
Present.
Thank you. Also in the room with us is Chief Fred Stevenson, Director Lauren McFarland, Director MJ Merritt, our CAO Steve Silver, and our Clerk Debbie Chapman. And to all audience members, I appreciate your attendance today, and we will proceed. As noted, we have been in closed session for the last hour. During that session, we approved the closed session minutes of July the 13th, and we received information updates from the CAO with regard to the CanAssist purchase option extension agreement, which will be coming forth to our next full council meeting. And we received information with regard to labor relations and advice that is subject to client solicitor privilege with regard to the Kahi Quarry. We also received advice from the clerk with regard to the Ombudsman's preliminary report, which will be coming to an open session, I believe on the 14th, and when the Ombudsman provides that. So that is our Verizon report. Under open forum, there are no proposed delegations, I believe. I'm informed that we do have, Julie Ingo. And Julie from the Ernestown Barracuda swim team. And welcome, Julie. And for open forum, if you wish to address council on any matter, we encourage that, of course. And you have 3 minutes to present. And are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Julie Ingo, and I am the president of the Ernestown Barracuda Swim Club. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank council for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Barracudas on this very important matter. Specifically, I would like to speak to agenda item 12.2, which I know is under consideration this evening. And I'd like to just start by saying I know that the last 6 months have been very challenging for all governments and their staff. And I appreciate the fact that in these unprecedented times, a lot of very rapid decisions have had to be made, and a great deal of work has gone into making these decisions on the part of both staff and elected officials in response to this public emergency. I also know that council well understands the importance of recreational activities for both the mental and physical well-being of everyone, so I won't dwell on that point this evening. I would like to note that we've always felt that the Barracudas had a very strong partnership with the township, and it was a little bit heartbreaking on Saturday when we realized that one of the agenda items this evening included a possible decision that might keep the swimming pool closed until January of 2021. This is especially heartbreaking because since the end of May, our representatives have met with township staff on 5 separate occasions, and most recently on August the 21st, in addition to the numerous emails that we've exchanged throughout that period of time discussing our reopening plans. So the fact that not once in any of these discussions did the possibility of such an extended pool closure get raised was a little bit disheartening. We do hope that the township might consider an opportunity for more dialogue on this matter. We think that there may be ways in which the Barracudas could help mitigate the challenges with reopening the pool. For example, we think there may be opportunities to generate more pool revenue through increased pool rental to our organization through either increased rates and or increased time. We normally rent pool time at 3 different pools in the community, but this year, in order to ensure our safe operations, we had been planning to only operate from 1 pool. Part of our plan to keep our swimmers safe includes having significantly reduced swimmers in the pool, which means we need to purchase additional time in order to accommodate our swimmers this year. So far, we have only offered registration to our returning swimmers, and we have almost a 100% return rate, or 75 confirmed swimmers. We've had to tell that any new swimmers that have been inquiring about joining the club that right now we need to waitlist them to ensure we have sufficient pool space for our returning members. So expansion of our programming is another potential opportunity for increased revenues with the township. The Barracudas have always looked at Henderson as our home pool, and we know that along with many other community members who value the pool for its fitness, recreational, and therapeutic opportunities. And we understand that it's completely understandable that everybody right now is very concerned about reopening facilities such as swimming pools safely. So one of the things we wanted to note that is our number one priority is the safety and well-being of our swimmers and our coaches, not to mention the staff at Henderson. But we actually think that the Barracudas can serve as an excellent test group for safe pool reopening. In addition to the screening protocols that would be in place, we've had plans in place to organize our swimmers into training bubbles in order to minimize swimmer contact. And as I'm sure some of you may have seen a swim practice and wondered what the heck swimmers are actually doing and that it looks pretty boring. One of the funny things about the way swimming works is that swimmers are working in a pool on an interval training method where swim coaches actually have complete control over where a swimmer is at any point in time in the pool, because they are working on exactly what the coaches told them to be doing and swimming on the interval time set by the coaches. We've also been working really hard with our governing body, Swim Ontario, on a plan to ensure that our swimmers are safe when they return to the pool, and that our swimmers would not be returning to the pool until Swim Ontario has approved our plan. I know the township has done a great deal of work on a report to look at the longer term considerations of tonight's decision, but we did want to emphasize that a lengthy pool closure carries risks that either the Barracudas will have to make other pool rental arrangements that might in the future diminish the need for rental at Henderson, or that we might suffer enough membership loss to decrease future need for pool time. It takes a really long time to build a swim club up to the level that the Barracudas compete at now, and to lose a significant amount of our membership may have very long-term implications that take a long time to recover from. I'd just like to close by saying that the Barracudas have been part of this community for over 40 years, and we very much would like to continue to offer a competitive swimming program, particularly in a community that's growing as much as Loyalist Township is. So we hope the council will consider to deciding to open all its recreational facilities, including the pool, in September, or that the township might consider, the council might consider a decision to defer tonight's decision to allow for further stakeholder discussion. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ingo. We appreciate your comments, and certainly appreciate the longevity and the importance of the Ernestown Barracuda Swim Club has been for the community at large. At this time, I'll turn to council. If we have any questions for Ms. Ingo. Councillor Porter, go ahead.
It's not so much of a question, but just a comment. So I just want to thank you for taking the time tonight to present to us. And also, I just want to thank you for the email and the very detailed report that you provided, explaining how the reopening and how you would reinstate your program safely. So I do appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of council that wish to make comment or question? Seeing none. Thank you very much again, Ms. Ingo. We appreciate your input to this process, and as you noted, we will be discussing it further in the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to the clerk, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak for open forum? Thank you. There's just because I know the audience can't hear the clerk at this time, she indicates that there are others that may be wishing to speak to the two public meetings that are coming forward just after this section, but there's no one else in the audience who has indicated the desire to speak during open forum. With that, I will end the open forum and we move into the public meeting and notices of public meeting. The public meeting will proceed in this unusual Zoom format, of course. And in a moment, I will ask staff to present the report with regard to the individual application, and then open the floor to the public to speak to that, and in turn ask council for any questions, comments, etc., with regard to that. So with that, I will turn to the staff member. Sorry, the first one, item 4.1, is the Papanicolaou zoning bylaw amendment that has been applied for. And we have a report from the director, MJ Merritt. Ms. Merritt, are you available to present this?
So through you, Your Worship, actually, Mr. Casemore will be presenting the file, and Ms. Furness is also available for answering any questions you may have with the file.
Thank you very much. Then I will call Mr. Casemore to come forward. And also welcome Ms. Furness. And Mr. Casemore, when you're ready.
Hi, good evening. The file this evening is Mr. Papanicolaou's rezoning application for a property on Bath Road, just west of Amherstview. He's requesting a rezoning from future development to residential type 1. Staff are requesting deferral based on provincial policy. Or not deferral, sorry, are denying or recommending denial on it based on provincial policy that doesn't meet those requirements. Other than that, I don't think we've received any interesting comments from external agencies regarding the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Casemore. All right, we do have your recommendation and the options presented to us as well. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? And I'll go to the applicant, the agent for the applicant. I believe it's Andrew Papanicolaou.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Andrew. How you doing?
Good. How are you folks?
Not bad. And,
Okay.
go ahead.
You can hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Before I start, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just thank the planning department, specifically Peter Voss, Andrea Furness, Dave Casemore, for guiding me through the application for the rezone to fulfill the severance that was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on June the 1st. I'd also like to thank the Committee of Adjustment for approving the lot addition, and to council for looking over the rezoning application and allowing me to make a brief statement. Just for the record, I just want everybody to be aware that I am acting as an agent on behalf of Lampros and Dora Papanicolaou, the owners of the benefiting land, and acting as an agent on behalf of Bob Hodgson, the owner of the subject land as well. Before I ask council if they have any questions about the application, I just wanted to highlight just a few key points that I believe are pretty pertinent to the rezone application, so you can make an informed decision. Point number one was similar to the severance application, that this process was started in 2005 by Lampros and Dora Papanicolaou. That's 15 years ago, allowing the township adequate time to assess the land use for that particular subject land. The application itself complies with the county official plan, the township official plan, and is consistent with provincial policy statements, because this is not creating a new lot, but it is adjusting lot boundaries for two lots of record. Both subject and benefiting lands are privately owned. To make a note that the county had no objections to the rezone or the severance in question. And although the secondary plan is in the future, township has not had any consultation or communication with the subject landowner, and as such has no indication on what his or her intentions are with the lands in question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Papanicolaou. And council, do we have any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? If you do, can you raise your hand using the electronic hand signal? Our clerk is not seeing anyone at this time. And I'll have to take it there is no further comment. Again, we have the report before us. Council, you have the recommendation of the report and the option. And I'll go to Councillor Porter.
Yes, I'm going to move that the report from the Planning Division bylaw amendment application be received and that the application be approved. And if I can get a seconder, I'll explain why.
I'll take that as a motion. Councillor Proderick, you're seconding. Thank you. Councillor Porter, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, we had a great deal of discussion at the Committee of Adjustment meeting, the Committee of Adjustment, as we all are members, about this application, and we did eventually, that committee decided and approved the application for the consent. And this is a condition, if I understand correctly, of that consent application. So if we don't approve this, the whole Committee of Adjustment decision becomes a moot point and totally pointless for the applicant to have gone through this application.
Thank you. Councillor Proderick, do you have any further comment?
No, those were my sentiments exactly.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion at hand? Any opposed? And motion is carried. And thank you. I'll go to the clerk. And just for clarification from the clerk, the motion will read that to approve the amendment application and that the bylaw 2020-050 attached is approved. Enacted and passed. That's the wording. And that is okay for the mover and seconder. Thank you. With that, we move on to the second public meeting, item 4.2. And at this time, I must declare a conflict of interest as I am an adjoining property owner to that property and ask that the deputy mayor take the chair for this public meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we'll follow the same process as laid out for the first one then. So staff, would you like to make a presentation on this report as well?
So yes, Your Worship, again, Mr. Casemore will be presenting the file with Ms. Furness answering questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good evening. Tonight before council, we have a public meeting for the Loyalist Shores Phase 2 subdivision located in Amherstview. The proposal before the committee involves 3 planning applications, a draft plan of subdivision, an official plan amendment, and a zoning amendment. Just a point of clarity, this is the second public meeting we've had for this application. It was discovered due to a technical issue in our circulation process that not everything was circulated. So once we found that out, we have recirculated the notice and are holding the public meeting before us tonight. Again, the 3 applications, the application for draft plan is for phase 2 of a subdivision, which was previously approved and accidentally lapsed. And the OP and zoning amendment is required due to a reduction of a small parcel of land being added to a seniors complex abutting the lands we're speaking of, which results in a reduction of 5 building lots from the original plan, and results in the OP amendment and zoning amendment to have all the fabrics in line. And moving from there, we've had a number of residents submit and speak with the planning department regarding concerns over a number of issues regarding on-street parking, maintenance, tree retention, rentals, secondary units in the area, and blasting concerns. And one other point is we received a request from an external agency late in the day today for more information. And we are proposing staff to defer the application, so staff and the owner has a chance to address any potential concerns that have resulted from the correspondence we have received. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casemore. If I could just ask for you to just clarify that last statement you made. The recommendation now is for deferral from staff?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
As this is a public meeting, I believe we will follow through the follow through all the steps anyway. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And I do believe,
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I do believe Kyle Nielsen of Forefront Engineering is in attendance to provide a brief presentation to go over the proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So I'll turn it to the clerk for attendees that are looking to present to council.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of council. Does the clerk have the presentation available?
Do you have it there, Debbie?
Yes,
You're-
she's just going to share her screen. She's just working on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have it on our screens now. If you'd like to proceed, Mr. Nielsen.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to present phase 2 of the Loyalist Shores subdivision. My name is Kyle Nielsen with Forefront Engineering, and I will be your presenter tonight on behalf of S.S.B Associates, Inc. Thank you for joining us to discuss the proposed development at 16 Manitou Crescent East in Amherst. I prepared a brief presentation to present the proposal, and we'll take any questions or comments from council afterwards. Next slide, please. The project's located in Amherst in Loyalist Township. Next slide. Sorry. A draft plan of subdivision is proposed to create the proposed lot fabric for the plan of subdivision. A zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment are proposed to align the boundaries with the proposed lot fabric in case the zoning and official plan amendments are mainly technical in nature, as they are not proposed to allow additional development on site. Next slide, please. The previously approved draft plan proposed 78 single detached dwelling lots for residential development and 1 retirement home block. 26 lots fronting Manitou Crescent East and Park Crescent have been registered to date, and the retirement home block has been developed. Refer to the blue line for the phase 1 lots that are already developed. 52 of the lots have not been registered, and the draft plan approval accidentally expired. Next slide. The retirement home block has been developed and was designed to account for the proposed residential development. This proposal includes increasing the open space on the retirement home block. Next slide, please. This slide depicts the current property line configuration on site. 26 lots exist along the existing street frontages, and the stormwater management block has been constructed. Next slide. The proposed draft plan is for 47 single detached dwelling lots, opposed to the previous proposed 52. Through consultation with the owner, we decided to provide the retirement home block with more open space, allowing for the entire west side of the building to be viewed from the street. This was possible by removing 5 lots previously proposed below lots 1, 2, and 3. Next slide. This is a zoning map for R.S.O. Next slide. In blue is the surrounding site area. Next slide. Currently, the zoning on site is comprised of R3-15 and R6-1. The R3-15 zoning provisions on the slide allow the proposed single detached dwellings, and the R6-1 zone allow for the existing retirement home. To be clear, no further development is proposed in the retirement home block. Next slide. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is mainly technical in nature to align the existing zones with the proposed lot fabric. The dashed line above depicts the existing zoning boundary, and the bold line depicts the proposed boundary. The plan is to reduce the number of single detached dwelling lots by 5 on site, while increasing the open space for the existing retirement home. On your screen, you'll see Schedule C from the Township Official Plan. The site is comprised of both low and medium density areas on site. The low density corresponds to the single detached residential, and the medium corresponds to the retirement home. The existing official plan boundaries are depicted in bold. Low density residential as it relates to the application includes single detached dwellings with a maximum density of 31 units per hectare. Medium density residential includes the retirement home block with a maximum density of 60 units per hectare. Oh, next slide. Oh, sorry. Sorry, we just went through that one. Next one. Okay. All right. So here's the official plan boundaries in bold. So the low density, kind of the left side and bottom of the slide allows for 31 units per hectare. And in the top right corner is the medium density, which allows for 60 units per hectare. Next slide. The dashed blue line above is the existing boundary between low and medium density residential designations. The bold lines are the proposed boundaries with proposed densities below the maximum densities allowed in the official plan. 25 proposed versus 30 allowed for the low density, 47 proposed versus 60 for the medium density. Next slide. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Proposed dwelling types and densities on site are in conformance with the official plan and compatible with the neighborhood. This development is an infill type development in close proximity to services and transit. Stormwater management controls on site support the proposed development and enhance water quality and quantity control in the surrounding area. Cash and Loon Parkland was previously provided to enhance parks within the surrounding neighborhood, as opposed for land for this development. In summary, the proposed plan includes 47 single detached. Oh, next slide. In summary, the proposed plan includes 47 single detached residential lots versus the previously approved 52. Zoning and official plan boundary adjustments are proposed to align with the proposed subdivision lot fabric. Next slide. The developer undertook some additional assessments for the proposed development. In support of the application, we engaged GHG to these are over and above the previous studies completed for the last application. In support of the application, we engaged GHG to review the previous traffic impact assessment with new traffic counts. From this analysis, there were no further recommendations. They found the existing traffic volumes to be in line with the projected traffic demands of previous assessments. Forefront reviewed the stormwater management plans with the current application and regulations and confirmed the plans support the proposed development. Previous studies regarding this file are available from Loyalist Township for review. Next slide. From discussion this evening with Loyalist Township staff, I expect they will discuss written correspondence they received today from the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. Some additional consultation may be requested, and as you heard earlier, they've requested to defer this application. This site was determined to not meet the criteria for an archaeological assessment, as it's more than 300 meters from the lake, and it has been highly disturbed. There's been a nunnery on this site. There's the retirement home, and the majority of the site where we're actually proposing housing has been excavated for servicing at one time for another. So we actually feel that the additional consultation is not warranted, and that it would deferring tonight would only delay building houses on this site and getting the site finished off. So a couple comments we've heard from the public are on the traffic. So we had a traffic impact statement updated, and then we also had some additional information review completed at the Sherwood and Manitou intersection, and there's some recommendations in that assessment for staff to review during the final plan of subdivision process. So rock excavation for this project, there was some concerns with phase one with using hydraulic breakers and actually blasting. So phase one, they used hydraulic breakers. In addition to that, there was a blasting feasibility and vibration review completed. So as part, these same draft conditions to review vibration and blasting feasibility are included with this approval, as well as if blasting is conducted on site, there will be third-party monitoring in place, and private property investigations will be completed for any properties that will allow the consultants within 150 meters of the blasting operation. There's been some comments on tree preservation as part of the final plan of subdivision process. Both the process completed after this draft plan approval process and the original final plan of subdivision, there is a tree preservation required. So if we can go to the next slide. This is an example of the tree preservation plan. So it locates all the trees on site and it marks them for to be maintained or removed. Next slide. So I open the floor to council if they have any other questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. So yes, anyone in council have questions of Mr. Nielsen? Councillor Boudreau?
One question I have, in the first slide you showed regarding the layout of the lots, you show the connection of Westfield through to Briscoe. In the second slide, as well as the one attached with us, it shows it still being fenced in the second slide that you showed of the lots. Is it going through to Briscoe, or is it going to be fenced and to be a dead end? That's just one question.
No, it will be continuous so that you have dual access for emergency vehicles. So it will go through to Briscoe.
Go ahead.
Follow up?
Okay. Yes.
Just follow up. So has there been, when was that traffic study done? And just making sure it was done while the school was in, just because I know that area very well. I know it's a high traffic area in the morning and in the afternoon for school traffic for two different schools, both Mount Carmel and Amherst Public. Just follow up with that.
Yeah, so the original one was done in 2012, and that was a specific comment at that time, and it was definitely done during school hours. The second update was basically to review whether the projected traffic demands were similar to the projections in the 2012 review, and they were. I can't confirm the exact time, but I believe school wasn't in place with that review. There's also a condition in this draft plan approval if there's any further traffic requests from staff that we can look into them.
That everything, Mr. Boudreau, then? Okay, open it up to council for any other questions. And seeing none, thank you, Mr. Nielsen, for the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak to us, Ms. Chapman?
To raise their hand?
anyone else would like to speak to it, would you please raise your hand who are in the audience?
I have Mike Costa.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Costa.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Hagedorn. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you to Council overall for the opportunity to utilize technology for us to continue to be able to have these discussions. So I won't waste any more of my 3 minutes here. I'd like to speak to 3 specific issues with regards to this proposed Loyalist Shores development. 1 will be traffic, 2 will be payments in lieu of parkland, and 3 will be the hydraulic issues with hydraulic ramming that's there. First of all, with regards to traffic, and thank you to Councillor Proderick for raising my significant and ongoing concerns. Traffic studies were conducted in 2012 outside of the school year. Did not account for the school traffic that we see daily here. Worst of all, in my opinion, is the fact that Briscoe Street was not even subject to account. Briscoe is a street that is going to be affected by having an additional street attached to it. That will be Westfield, the extension, and not one traffic study or count was conducted on Briscoe between Sherwood and Park, which a majority of traffic traveling to Our Lady of Mount Carmel School takes in the morning. Again, this year, traffic studies were updated by ACOM. I would like to know what date those traffic studies were updated in March, because anything after March 8th will, quite honestly, be a bit of a red herring because school was closed after March 8th because of COVID. There was no traffic following that date for Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So any traffic study updates conducted after the 8th of March will not be reflective of real evidence in regards to the traffic studies conducted. Again, Council, you're being asked to make a decision on something you do not have complete information. Please consider that. Second, payment in lieu of parkland. It's indicated that payment has already been made to Township in lieu of parkland to improve parks in our immediate area. That would be Dinosaur Park, and that would be the other park adjacent to Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Perhaps it's as a result of COVID, but what has been done to improve those parks? Because I don't see the investment of the money in lieu of parkland. And finally, hydraulic ramming. I would ask that Council significantly consider this, and so that we don't have a repeat of the issue we had with Our Lady of Mount Carmel when we didn't hold the developers to account to do their work when they were required to do it in the off-school season and subject the children to 4 months of incessant pounding. Please consider that clearly, that this does not happen again. Yes, they're a little more distant from the school, but this was a significant issue that was never addressed before. So again, I implore Council, you're being asked to make a decision on something for which you do not have completed all your evidence, and that would not be exercising your due diligence to ensure that the residents in the immediate area have their concerns addressed. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a wonderful evening, and please stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Costa, for raising those points. So Mr. Costa signed out. So is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to Council?
I have Maddie.
Maddie? Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Hi there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this matter. I know it's a hot topic. I wanted to bring up some concerns regarding Bath Road and the tee-off that's supposed to be implemented from heading south on, I don't know that road that connects down to Bath Road, but Bath Road is the main artery heading into Bath and County Road 6. And when I first saw the construction happening down Bath Road, it was my understanding that possibly there'd be an expansion on that road into a 4-lane, although it was quite tight. Now it's obvious that it's a sidewalk or a bike lane or both. I'm not too sure what's being implemented there, but traffic has been backed up exponentially through this process of construction. And I foresee that it will continue to do so with the expansion up into County Road 6 to the industrial market that is going to be developed into 2021. It's to my understanding that's going to be built to what's the development building up there? It's the tracks in Odessa. So how is that road going to work off Manitou Crescent and the four-way? There's the four-way right there. And then so coming down Braybrook or whatever that road that comes down into facing south down to Bath Road. What's going to happen with that intersection there, if you don't mind clarifying? Is there going to be a tee-off or a one-way, or how is that road going to be redirected with regard to traffic? Number two, services and staff has been greatly reduced since COVID hit. So there has been a lack of maintenance with regards to city services and not essential services, but city services with garbage and what have you. So my concern is that with COVID and all this stuff that's happening and the reduction of services being provided to the people of Loyalist here, especially in this town in Amherstview, how is that going to be possible for maintaining parks if we have a reduction in staff? Right here along the fence on Manitou Crescent, and the commercial fence that's left here just on the corner block facing Shoppers Drug Mart, there was a 7-foot bush that took about 35 days to submit a request to even get cut, and kids were walking by it and anything could have jumped out of that 7-foot bush. And in order for it to get cut, again, it took 35 days to put in a request because there was a lack of employees that could come and actually do the job. So if we're going to have garbage pickup and we're going to have all these services that are delayed and or lack of staff available to do the job during the COVID, how do we plan for this? So there's going to be construction. Okay, what if they stop construction and then there's a disarray of materials left behind there? Right? So the tee off, what's going to happen with traffic? What's going to happen with the services, with staff? And then if we also take an example down at Woodhaven, so that's the same developer that developed and worked with Braybury and Tamarack Homes, and that was a complete mess. And I don't know if anybody is aware of what really happened, but I brought that up to a couple of people before. So I just want to make sure and ensure that the credibility of this developer is going to pull through to maintain and keep its promise on the build. Because again, I'm not going into detail, but if anybody knows what really happened in Woodhaven, it was a mess for a really long time. And now they have a bunch of traffic. There's roads parked all over the place. You can barely get through any of the roads in that area. We have expansions going up all the way to County Road 6 into Odessa. I just don't see how it's economically sound to run amok of this place back here and have the only main artery on Bath Road being backed up for months on end, if not years, and with essential services trying to get through on that road. The only other road to redirect the essential services for emergency vehicles and what have you is down Taylor Kidd and or coming off the highway. So a couple of things to address, and thank you so much for letting me speak on behalf of that.
Okay, thank you for bringing those up. And just for my clarification, when you're talking about the construction and everything, you're talking about the construction on Highway 33 and the backlog of traffic from that?
Yeah, the backlog of traffic that's happening all the way into Collins Bay. Also,
Okay.
there's a proposed, I saw there was another yellow sign for proposed development on Bath Road. I don't know what development that's happening there, but it's just right in front of Manitou East there. So there's other stuff happening along the water.
Okay. And thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because Highway 33 is a provincial highway. And so, but staff, I'm sure, have taken note of your concerns there, and they are in correspondence back and forth routinely. So, yes, Ms. Chapman?
Can we just am I coming through?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Can we just get Maddie's full name and address just so that we can have it for the record, the official record?
Yeah, sure. It's Amanda Madslin Aubin, Aubin, and it's 18 D Manitou Crescent East.
Thank you.
Thank you for providing that and for your comments as well. And I just turn to the rest of council. Are there any questions for this presenter? And seeing none, thank you very much for your input tonight's meeting.
I have Jeff
And-
Bull. Let's put his
Oh.
hand up.
Jeff Bull, can you hear us? You ready to present to council?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
As stated, my name is Jeff Bull. I'm at 18J Manitou Crescent East. So this proposal is in my backyard. And to support Maddie's comments, I am also a former resident of the Woodhaven subdivision and have seen the mistakes done there with lack of green space and traffic concerns. It has been a nightmare and is continuing to be a nightmare. And unfortunately, I'm beginning to see the same pattern developing here in Ambersview, which we moved to because we were looking for a better planned, quieter subdivision. Up in the northwest corner, I'm seeing the same overcrowding, and I'm afraid that's going to happen with this subdivision as well, with lot sizes too small, with driveways too short. We end up with the parking nightmare for essential services, for emergency services to navigate through these streets, and also becomes a hazard for children. There's been at least one child hit in the Woodhaven subdivision on Tremont because of so much traffic and parked cars, and drivers can't see. Plus, in this area on Manitou Crescent East, drivers are going way too fast. So that would be another traffic concern, to have some speed bumps or have Westfield a one-way street coming off of Highway 33, so that any traffic dumping onto 33 would have to use the lights at Sherwood. That would alleviate some congestion at the bottom of Westfield. So those would be my concerns, is that the planning of this subdivision is too dense. And then for those small lot sizes, if duplexes are allowed on each lot, then that doubles your parking nightmare on that property. And with Woodhaven Drive, you see duplex houses with single driveways and single garage, and there's 4 vehicles. So they're parked on the sidewalks, they're parked on the lawns, and it's a terrible nightmare. So those would be my concerns as a resident affected by this subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. If Mr. Casemore or a staff member are there, I'd be able to confirm, I understood that these were single family lots, so they would not be duplexes. Am I correct on that?
Is my mic still open?
Sorry, yes, it is. And I was just asking for confirmation from staff on your question about the duplexes.
Well, I can answer that. At the previous meeting where this Loyalist Shores Phase 2 was presented, we were instructed that the difference between the single family dwelling and a double family dwelling is a building permit. So if that building permit is granted, then that single can become a duplex unit.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Furness, I see you signed in. Can you respond to that question, please?
That's through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Is essentially the zoning bylaw does allow second units as of right in our residential urban zones in the urban settlement areas. So there's certain requirements that have to be met in terms of being able to accommodate a parking space. But it is as of right, and that does come right from the province. So while these aren't being set up, as we know, to have a unit built into it right from the start, essentially someone could come in and convert and have a second unit in proposed single detached dwelling. So that's permitted in our official plan and in our zoning bylaw, and that comes from the province, the provincial policy statement and the Planning Act, which mandates that municipalities are to make those available.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So with that, I'll turn to council. Do you have any questions for Mr. Bull? And seeing none, thank you, Mr. Bull, for coming forward and providing your comments to council on this project. Is there anyone else waiting to speak to us, Ms. Chapman?
I see Maddie has her hand raised again.
Hi there. Going back to Andrea's comments about the single family dwelling. So it's to my understanding, because there's several homes on Manitou East, that the difference between the single and the multiple dwelling unit is just, again, the permit. So to clarify, in order for you to put and accept the application as it stands for single dwelling, that's assuming that it's a single family home that's going to be in there without any secondary occupancy. And so if there's going to be secondary occupancy, then that would increase the low density to medium density. How would that work if there's other tenants in the house? So when the house is built, concrete's laid and what have you, the only difference is that permit to separate the house and to create a ensuite on the right or left hand side, or however these are built, because these ones have house on the outside, but on the inside it's split. So somebody on the left hand side has a bigger space and somebody on the right hand side has a smaller space. So therefore it's a multiple dwelling occupancy. So how does that come into the planning process and approvals for, if it's a single dwelling, then it then turns into a multiple dwelling unit? Is there any revision or reapplication for that, if that's supposed to be included somehow?
Okay, thank you for that question. I'll just defer to staff if there's someone that, if they're able to make a comment on that. Yes?
Yes,
Ms.
through you,
Ferris?
Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you for the question. So the zoning bylaw has certain restrictions in regards to second units. So if someone were to submit a building permit for a second unit, these would have to be complied with before a permit could be issued. One of those being that a secondary dwelling unit can't exceed 45% of the gross floor area of the overall single detached house. Or 90 square meters in size, whichever is lesser. So it is restricted in that way to ensure that it is actually secondary to the main unit. It can only be permitted within a single detached dwelling. So other subdivisions that may have semi-detached units or townhomes, we currently don't permit those today in our zoning bylaw, although the province has told us as well through Planning Act provisions that municipalities do have to make that available. And I would also say typically density calculations, again, based on what has come down from the province, aren't supposed to be used in, shouldn't be limiting subdivisions in any ways to accommodate for second units. So again, these pieces all have to be considered in terms of the zoning bylaw in issuing a permit. So somebody who is proposing too large of a space for that second unit wouldn't be able to get their permit.
Thank you, Ms. Furness. So with that, since there was another presentation, is there anyone in council that has questions regarding those latest comments? And seeing none, is there anyone else, Ms. Chapman, that is waiting to speak to us?
I don't see anyone with their hands up, although I do see that Kyle has responded in the comment section on a couple of the items.
Okay.
So I'm not sure whether he wanted to speak on that.
So yes, So the original traffic study counts were in February of 2012 and were updated in February 10th and 13th of 2020. This developer has not done a development in Woodhaven previously. I believe those are the two. So, those are just answering some of the questions that were asked. So I'll just ask again, is there anyone else in the attendees that are looking to speak to council?
I see Mike Costa has his hand up again.
Point of order. Point of
Yes.
order. This is an open meeting. It's not a debate. So people present once, and then that's it. If there are questions, staff are available via email to answer those questions. This is an opportunity for council to take comments, for those comments to be recorded. It's not a back and forth discussion where the public have access to staff to answer questions.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. I believe you are correct on that. So if there's any new speakers that wish to speak to council or address council, then if they'd raise their hands, the clerk will note it and bring you into the audience. Seeing none. Okay, so we'll move ahead then. So this is the opportunity for council, if you have any further questions to staff regarding this. And seeing none, what's council's wishes? We have the recommendations in the report, but then staff have also asked, recommended deferral. And if I got this right, if I made a mistake, staff, please speak up. Defer for staff and the developer to complete information discussions with external agencies. Councillor Porter?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions, if I may.
Okay, please proceed.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the traffic study, the updated traffic study was done during a time period when school was in full force. You said February 10th, 2020. Can you confirm that, Mr. Nielsen? Or can staff confirm it?
Ms. Porter, I can confirm it. Those were the correct dates, and school was in session on both occasions.
Okay, thank you. The other question I have is in regards to, I know that, and thank you again to Mr. Costa for reminding us of this, but I know that during the first stage of this development, there was a lot of complaints about the noise and the hoe ramming that was going on. And I certainly can empathize with school children trying to learn and trying to concentrate with constant day after day hoe ramming. So this question is for staff. Is there restrictions on when that type of activity can occur when in fact when school does become in session again?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, they would have to follow the noise bylaw restrictions, which doesn't really address hoe ramming during the school days, which is Monday to Friday. To my recollection, and from what staff had told me, when they did phase one, there was no such restriction as far as hoe ramming. So we will have to look into this when we work through the design and the subdivision agreement to see if that could be alleviated. If we don't allow them to do their construction work from Monday to Friday, that means they're going to be working on a weekend.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so just to follow up that, then that there will be opportunity later on in the process to come up with some sort of plan to mitigate, however it can be mitigated. I know that there's challenge with that, the noise and the disturbance to any school children. Is that correct?
So we would be looking at some mitigation. with what we have to work with.
Okay, and one last question to staff is that in the conditions of approval that's being recommended by staff in this report, condition 3, excuse me, AA, that a traffic impact study prepared by a qualified professional engineer to the satisfaction of the township. Is staff has that been done? And if so, is staff satisfied with the level of the traffic study that's been supplied to them?
So I'm going to let Ms. Furness discuss this draft plan conditions.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Porter. Our engineering comments received were that they were satisfied with the comments with the traffic study and the updated traffic study as well. We did keep the condition in to give us the opportunity to, if need to be, to look at more thorough. It wasn't completely satisfying that draft condition now. So if there's anything resulting from this that we have to do a double check at, then that would allow us the ability to do that and not check off the box prior to final plan of subdivision.
Oh, okay, Councillor Porter, that complete the questions?
And I have a motion when ready to accept one.
Okay, I'll just open up to questions. Councillor Parks?
Hi, I was just wondering, and I'm not sure if Ms. Ferris can answer this, but in regards to that traffic study that was done, did that traffic study take into consideration the question that Councillor Proderick had asked earlier about the chain link fence going out onto Bresee, and that there only being traffic coming out on Park Street?
Okay. Ms. Furness or Ms. Merritt, is there anyone that can speak to that?
I cannot. I don't know the details of the traffic study, but we could, we'll have a discussion with the engineering group. I don't know if Kyle can answer that question actually tonight, but otherwise we'll have to find that answer for you and get back to you.
Okay, Councillor Parks? Okay. Any other questions, Council, regarding this? And seeing none. So we do have the recommendations, the deferral, and the ones in the report. And Councillor Porter, you...
I'm going to move to receive the report and adopt the recommendations 1, 2, and 3 in the report.
Okay, and just for clarification, 3 with the however many subheadings all in it there.
Well, 3, and there's also the condition of a further traffic study if warranted.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gordon? Okay, any comments, Councillor Porter?
Yeah, the report has come to us as written, and I think it was a very detailed report. There's also a lot of conditions in this application, and this is just an application for draft plan approval. It's not a final subdivision application. So any of the concerns that have been raised tonight, or any of the concerns that other council members or staff have raised, there's opportunity to address those as the process is being followed. I mean, from the time of draft plan approval to actual construction could be as long as a year, 2 years, 3 years. I think that's why they give, 3 years for a draft plan to be in existence, because it takes a lot of time. So there's lots of opportunity moving forward to make sure that some of the issues that have been raised tonight are addressed.
Thank you. And seconder, Councillor Gordon? You're muted, Councillor Gordon.
Sorry. No, I would agree and support the deferral for some of the reasons Councillor Porter spoke of, and also some of the reasons that some of the residents have concerns. I think we're talking about our homes, we're talking about safety, we're talking about traffic, we're talking about property values. We're talking about a lot here, schools and everything else. And so I think it only makes sense. We waited this long now to, I guess, do a lot of this on the subdivision. But I'd like to see us get back to those residents and to their satisfaction as far as answering the questions, the concerns that they brought up this evening. So.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gordon. I'm going to go back to Councillor Porter just to clarify what her motion was.
Yeah, my motion was to approve the draft plan or to approve the recommendations as written in our report that is before us tonight. It was not to defer, but it was to adopt the recommendations, to receive the report and adopt the recommendations as written.
Oh, I apologize. I'll withdraw my second there.
So just to make sure that I'm clear on the procedure, I'm just going to look to the clerk. In this case, we can just receive a seconder if there is one. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So is there a seconder for the motion to receive the report and adopt the recommendations as presented in the original report? Seeing none. Okay, so that there's no seconder, so that motion is not live. Is there a motion from council? Yes, Mr. Silver?
This isn't a motion, but
that's good.
I just wanted to remind council that staff did inform us that we had an external agency that requested further information, and the staff are requesting a deferral to the next meeting or whenever that request has been satisfied to the external agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silver, for the reminder. So staff, or sorry, council, what's your wishes for a motion? Councillor Broderick?
Put forward a motion to defer to the next meeting so that the external agencies can be satisfied to the fullest degree.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Parks? Mover, Councillor Broderick, any comments?
It was stated earlier and
Of order, there's no discussion on the deferral.
Correct, sorry. Okay, so with no discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And motion is carried. So with the ending of that item, the mayor, I'll turn the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Deputy. And moving forward then. So that concludes our public meetings for this evening. We now move into our regular agenda. And so we have an agenda before us. Are there any edits or changes to that agenda from staff? Seeing none. Council, do we have any edits to it? Councillor Townend, go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm conscious that item 13.2 may in fact be irrelevant, given that the proponent has pulled out of their wish to enter into a lease agreement with the township.
And understood. And so we will drop the item 13.2 from the agenda. Is there anything else that needs to be edited at this time? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as edited? Councillor Townend, so moved. Councillor Porter, seconded. All right, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Getting back to the beginning. It's a long agenda to scroll through tonight. Which brings us to declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there anyone in the audience? Councillor Townend, go ahead.
Yes, I would notify the public that I declared pecuniary interest on a matter pertaining to the Amherst Island Quarry, as I am under the employ of the owner of said quarry.
Anyone else? Councillor Porter?
I'm declaring conflict of interest in item 14.2 and 14.4, being that I am a shareholder in one of the corporations that are affected.
Thank you. Any others? While I'm at it, I will make notice that I declared, as I did earlier for that public session, that public meeting, conflict with that application, as I am an adjoining property owner. And I'm assuming all council members will file the appropriate paperwork with the clerk. Going forward to item 7, the confirmation of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Administration meeting on July the 6th. We have a number of actions coming out of that, and kind of a motion to receive and approve those minutes. Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Going to confirmation of the minutes of the 32nd session of council, July the 13th. We have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Oh, the clerk has her hand up.
I believe in this section, we've missed the mover and seconder of going into close or coming out of close. So we will correct that on the finished minutes.
So the mover and seconder were not identified in the motion to go into closed session. So that will be edited. Any others that are noted? Deputy?
Yes, just some minor error items. I'm just want to clarify with the clerk. Is she referring to the fact that the mayor reported out?
Yes,
Okay.
Sorry, we do have a couple minor housekeeping as well as we have mayor instead of deputy mayor because the mayor wasn't in attendance and there's a couple words that were just misspelled. So we'll correct those.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Anyone else? I look for a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Deputy, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any further comment? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Then we go to the confirmation of the minutes of the special session of council, August the 4th. Again, we have the minutes before us. Are there any known errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll look for a mover. Councillor Proderick, seconded by Councillor Parks. Thank you. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Confirm those minutes. Now we come to section 8, delegations and presentations. I do understand that as Councillor Townend noted, Mr. Tremblay has withdrawn the application. Is he in the audience for the second presentation? Is Mr. Tremblay here? No. Okay. So the first one then is Mr. Proderick, and that will likely be the only delegation. As we invite Mr. Proderick in. And welcome, Mr. Proderick.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight about, in specific, report of SR 1472 and the opening of the recreational facilities. I'm here with Blair Salt and Rob Martell, vice presidents, and we're practicing our social distancing. You have previously received a package from me with our COVID plan and a letter, and I'm not going to read that back to you. At the end of this presentation, I'd be pleased to answer any questions in regard to that letter. Just a few comments. Recently, the Recreation Department sent out a survey to the community that made a little mention of the arena facility As an association, we feel there are many groups that provide programming of value to the community that were not included in the public consultation. And as the largest revenue source to the arena facility, minor hockey, other associations such as Tesla, Loyalist Figure Skating Club, various old timers groups, they've all provided valuable recreational services to our community for many years. While we can't speak for them and their needs, we appreciate their contribution to our community. As we move towards our 50th season, last season we ran a slight deficit. Due to prudent planning by previous executives, we were able to pay all our bills and move ahead planning for this unique season. At this time, we have surveyed our community and have a commitment from 221 youth who wish to play hockey this season. We believe as an association, an extended shutdown of the arena facility will lead to the demise of our association. Larger centers such as Kingston and Napanee would jump at the opportunity to take players from our community. And through past experience, once a program is lost, it rarely returns. In the past 10 years, the Eastern Ontario Minor Hockey League has had 3 programs disappear, and a few others have been absorbed by larger centers due to amalgamation. In our experience, we lose players to other centers to play at a higher level, such as Kingston AAA. We don't want to lose our representative and house league players to another center for even a season. There's many ways to build a community, and we would suggest that minor hockey is a key player in that build, as well as other organizations. Bringing together many residents of different background experiences and working towards a common goal happens daily, coast to coast in Canada. Cheering on your kids, their friends, and our teams is certainly a community building experience. This past season, we had one hockey team make it to the Ontario final and be declared a provincial champion. Our community came out in droves to support them, gaining local and provincial media attention. This support is also reflected in our business support over many years. Having ate at Papa's many times over the past year and seeing the proud supporter of Loyalist Minor Hockey signed by 100 or so of our local youth should be enough to gauge our support in the community. Have a look the next time you're in there to see the names of the future of our community. Community builders are also the 100 or so volunteers who make our program work. Not a single dime is paid to our volunteers in the pursuit of their passions. They take trainers programs, coaching clinics, have background checks done for the privilege of helping out our youth grow from young boys and girls to adults. In the past, Loyalist has run 2 very successful summer camps with Hockey Canada and had looked forward to another camp this summer, which we had to cancel for obvious reasons. We are also one of the lucky centers that have been chosen to host the Hockey Canada First Shift program here this fall, should the facility be available. While we support all local programming, we wish to address option 1 and option 3 in the report. Option 1 would cause irreparable damage to the LTMHA. Many players would migrate to other centers and possibly not return. We have worked hard in the past years to build capacity within our volunteer group, and some of them may disappear too. We lose players every year to the larger centers, and we do not wish to lose other players also. Quoting directly from the report on page 5, highest operational savings being the result of option 1 is certainly a great community killer. We would question whether it's the Recreation Department's mission to make money or to service the community. The negative fallout would linger for years, and Loyalist would certainly lose its status as a great place to live. One of the positives of our program is cost. We try to make hockey as affordable as possible for all. Last year, I had a conversation with a parent at registration. They asked when the next installment was due. When I said they were paid in full, the parent said we were $500 cheaper than the last center the child played in. The report also goes on to state that established relationships could be lost is a given as other centers moving forward with opening plans. There aren't many townships that have a minor hockey association, an adult hockey association, and a junior hockey team providing for the residents for over 40 years. Also in the report, the argument that many residents don't use recreation services is a moot one in our opinion. Many residences may not use the library, the bus route, or perhaps even garbage services, fire services we hope we never have to use, or drive on the roads, yet we pay for these in our taxes. For the fiscal side of the argument, perhaps the grant money on page 3 mentioned could alleviate some of these concerns. It comes down to what are the values our community should be the question. Communication of these values will be made by council tonight in your decision. From a Loyalist hockey point of view, social media will allow us to have our plan out Thursday as we have a plan ready to go to our membership on Wednesday night. To also add that with schools opening next month with no extracurriculars in both elementary and secondary, Loyalist Minor Hockey believes it's imperative that our youth have access to community programming. A return to what we were going to call the new normal is desired. This will help rebuild our community, which has suffered enough during the past 5 months. Ongoing recreational facilities meet not only the physical needs of our youth, but according to some experts, it is important to the mental health of our youth. Loyalist Minor Hockey has submitted a draft plan to the Recreation Department for our return to play and are committed to making it work. It is based on government policy, health unit guidelines, and the Hockey Canada direction we receive. To conclude, over the past few months, garbage fees were waived to a generally positive response. We hope that council view the recreational facilities with such a priority and open them to residents as soon as possible under the appropriate protocols. With respect, on behalf of the association's membership, we ask council to choose option 3 and direct the Recreation Department to reopen the facilities as soon as possible. Thank you for your time. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Proderick. And yes, I can concur that all of us are very proud of the LTMHA and all of the various hockey, ice skating, et cetera, associations that have practiced in the Henderson Rec Center for many years, and they are a great add to the community. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Proderick at this time? Seeing none. And I thank you very much, Mr. Proderick.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Thank you. And as noted earlier, Mr. Tremblay with the CJAI radio tower item on the agenda, making a presentation to us tonight. They have withdrawn that application at this time. So we will move forward. We move on to agenda item 10, Office of the Chief Administrator. We have a report from Mr. Silver with regard to the community hub. Silver?
Thank you, Worship. I don't have anything further to add other than this report is for council's information. The steering committee has approved the new structure, and I would just like to publicly thank Directors Merritt and McFarland for their assistance in developing this proposal. We think that this will keep the development of the hub on track and focused, and nothing has changed as far as reporting relationships. The steering committee will still report to council. These working groups will report to the steering committee, and the steering committee reports to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Council, do we have any questions with regards to this report? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, I just have a quick question. The one subcommittee I see deals with design and construction eventually. Now, this may be a premature question, but in light of what's been going on the last 6 months and maybe for a while, with the distancing and everything, is that all going to be taken into account in the design? And what I'm looking at is we may not be able to put as many people in as tight a spot as what we originally had assumed that we could have.
Silver?
And that may be premature because if the committee hasn't met yet, they may not have an answer.
It's a very, through your worship, it's a very good question. The design is still very preliminary, so I think the finance and administration working group will be busier during this next phase. We're seeking funding exactly, and We'll also be looking at the priority, of course, is the pool and the infrastructure there. So the design will very much depend on what the recommendations and what council decides on how we can move forward. But we should keep, because this may not be the only pandemic of the future. So we should keep that in mind. That's a very good point, especially when we're designing dressing rooms and things like that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you, CAO. Any other questions or comments with regard to the report? Seeing none, the recommendation is to receive for information. Can I get a mover? And Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Update number 10.2. We have a report from the CAO with regard to the emergency declaration, answering some questions. Do you have anything further to add to this at this time?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just mention that we did receive $425,700 in the initial stage 1 COVID funding. Our expenses are in the approximately $600,000. So we'll be looking at stage 2 funding application as well, so that we can apply to receive the actual expenses that we did incur. It said the report itself deals with several questions following our last meeting that I had contacted Dr. Moore, and his answers are there. And we had been talking about the termination of the declaration of emergency. And again, within our conversation with Dr. Moore today, it was reviewed. The CAOs are to get together again, all the CAOs in Frontenac, Atlantic, St. Addington, to take a look at this next month, around the 1st of the month. In our conversation today, Dr. Moore was talking about the return of the students to school, and with the post-secondary students. Most of them have cut their on-campus students in half, but we feel there'll be a lot of students in the area doing their studies virtually, so that is a major risk. So, so we had the discussion amongst the local municipalities, so we'll be looking at that again next month, and I'll be reporting that back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Are there any questions with regard to this report? Council? None. And again, I believe it's a recommendation to receive for information. Can I get a motion to that effect? Councillor Townend, seconded by Councillor Parks. Thank you. Any comments? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 10.3, a resolution regarding the ferry funding. I believe this is, and it's also the CAO, so I'll go back to Mr. Silver.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just some background how this motion was developed. I had conversations with the CAO from the County of Frontenac and the CAO from Frontenac Islands, because we're all three in the same position, and I believe we're the only 3 ferries in the province where the municipality is the chief operator of the ferry. And basically the operative sentence is the one at the bottom, which states further that a portion of the pandemic federal funds be allocated towards municipal transportation, ferry revenue loss, and ferry expenditures resulting from the pandemic. So we want the ferry recognized, the ferry operation recognized that there were significant losses in operation and in revenue during this time, and we would like that considered separately. And that is in support of the Federal Association of Ferries that we mentioned in the resolution. So the plan is, the mayor spoke to this during our delegation with the minister from MTO, last week at the annual conference. And the plan is for Frontenac County, Frontenac Islands, and Loyalist to consider this resolution and pass it along federally and provincially. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Any questions or comments from council? As most of you know, the SAFE protocol for our staff and for our residents and users of the ferry had required us to stop taking payments on the ferry, and we are working towards new payment methods to allow the fares to be returned. But there has been significant revenue cost across the board for the last 5 months because of that. So we did appeal to Minister Mulrooney at AMO, and this is in support of that. Councillor Parks. So,
through you, Your Worship, just wondering if Mr. Silver has an idea of when you might get word back from this resolution going forward to the government. I'm just wondering about going forward with the ferry fees as to when we could start possibly looking at bringing that back.
Through you, Your Worship. One never knows when the government will respond, especially this is a federal issue because it's right across the country. So we would ask, we'll copy our MP and MPP, the motion as well, so hopefully they can keep the pressure on. We are reviewing different methods of instituting cashless system on the ferry. And I believe that Ms. McFarland will speak to that later, or can speak to that later. We've been trying several different types, such as a debit card or the Honk app, which the City of Kingston uses for parking. So we're studying all of those and testing those out right at the moment. So we expect that ferry fees will be implemented again within the next month or so.
thank you. Anyone else have a question or comment? And again, this report is, we need a motion to support that resolution. Councillor Porter, so moved.
Yeah, excuse me, just I'll move to support the resolution as written in the report, as well that the resolution be circulated to other municipalities to seek their support.
Thank you. So moved. The clerk has that detail. And Councillor Porter, are you looking for all Ontario municipalities or just the other municipalities that are impacted directly by this?
Would it hurt to go to all municipalities? I mean, hopefully we'll get the support from the ones that are impacted, but wouldn't hurt to circulate.
Okay, then we'll go with all municipalities. The clerk has that. Do I have a seconder for that? I saw a few hands earlier, but I'll go with Councillor Townend. Thank you. Councillor Porter, any further comment? No? Councillor Townend, any comment? Anyone else? And then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we move forward to Business Services in the Treasurer's Department, item 11.1 with regard to the Charitable Foundation request. We have a report from Mr. Dickey, and I believe the Deputy Treasurer is here with us, Mr. Renier. Are you wishing to speak or add to this this report at this time, Mr. Renier? He's coming in.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
I have nothing to add at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, do we have any questions with regard to the report? Seeing none. We have a recommendation in the report establishing a new fund. Moved by Councillor Porter and seconded by Councillor Proderick. Councillor Porter, any comments? Councillor Proderick, any comment? Anyone else? Councillor Townend, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank staff for their work on this. It was a delegation from the island that had presented the idea initially. The report outlines fairly clearly why the initial proposal that was put forward wouldn't work. The recommendation is for something obviously entirely separate, which is a worthwhile endeavor for sure. So it's unfortunate that that couldn't work out, but I appreciate staff's time in doing the work to answer that particular question.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have comment? Back to mover. None. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Coming to section 12.1. I have a report from Ms. McFarland on the resumption of special events. I believe Ms. McFarland is in the room now. And do you have anything to add to this report at this time, Ms. McFarland?
Nothing further to this report at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regard to it? None? Okay, do we have a motion? Councillor Proderick, your motion is?
Receive and adopt both recommendations.
Thank you. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Porter. And Mr. Proderick, would you like to comment?
No. We're getting to a point where I think as a community, we've been safe. We're following all provincial and public health guidelines. It's time to try and be social, but smart.
Exactly. Councillor Porter, any comment? No? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And item 12.2, and the one that a lot of us have been talking about, reopening of recreation facilities. Again, we have the director. Would you like to add anything to it at this time before we go to council?
Yes, Your Worship. At this time, I would like to add that if council's decision tonight is option 3, which is to reopen the recreation facilities with a phased-in approach, staff do have the plans and protocols in place to do so. The timing in the report, I didn't specify the timing of what our plan is, but our phased-in approach would be the leisure center would be offering fitness classes September 8th. We would then follow, our target is for September 14th for the arena, and then the following for the pool, with the goal to have all of the recreation services open by October 1st at a reduced schedule that incorporates all of the safety protocols and government guidelines. We have worked with user groups to determine what their facility requests and rental needs will be. And this information has been utilized to develop the revenue projections that are provided in this report. And we have also utilized their input to help develop the return to play protocols. The major factors that would contribute to not meeting these targeted dates would be major mechanical failures that we might encounter bringing the equipment online, or changes to the current regulations that could occur in the event of a spike in the virus. The only other piece that I do have to add that I didn't have at the time is that the county has informed us that they have targeted September 1st as a reopen date for the Amherst View Library, and then the following week would be for Bath, and they have also proposed phased-in dates and programs for the library as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. McFarland. Council, do we have any questions with regards to this report? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McFarland, and it may very well be in your report, but I didn't see it, or I didn't find it. Is there going to be priority given to local groups and residents of our municipality in this phase in reopening, like for ice time, pool time, that type of thing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have had Zoom meetings with all of our current users, including Loyalist Minor Hockey, the Jets, and the Loyalist Skating Club. I apologize. Every schedule that we have in there is based on those projections. We sent out specific surveys to all of our other ICE user groups that we currently utilize and have been utilizing for a long time, to ensure that based on the protocols, they would still be interested in doing that. And as I said, all of those have been developed in developing this schedule. We've slated in a potential schedule of what they have provided to us already. And then in terms of the pool and the leisure center, we would follow the same protocols that we have in place, which is allowing residents some lead time prior to allowing outside residents to utilize those services.
Okay, thank you.
If I may follow up to that, yeah, just it was mentioned earlier in one of the presentations that we heard, is that some of the clubs may be interested in renting additional time because of the reduced numbers that they're having during their programming. So I want to be sure that that is taken into account, and that the clubs or organizations that have been loyal to Loyalist Township, have used our facilities in the past, get that first priority before renting out to those outside our community.
Those have all been taken into, through you, Mr. Mayor, those have all been taken into consideration, Councillor Porter.
Anyone else have comment or question for the director? Seeing none, we do have, I'm not on the right report here, hang on. We have the report with recommendations with several ors and ands involved in that. So I would ask council if you are ready to make a motion, but clarify which parts of the ors and ands. So I'll go to Councillor Proderick.
I would like to receive and adopt recommendation number 3, as well as and or the Lionheart organization's continued permit use of the Amherst Community Hall, and the Bon Evans permit to book Finkel Park, and us waiving the $545.16 using the council ad hoc fund going forward.
So moved, seconded by, I'll take Councillor Gordon. Okay. Mover, any further comment?
Again, like I said in the previous 12.1, that we have seen the fact that we've got a smart plan going forward. Every governing body, whether it be skating, swimming, or hockey, have protocols in place going forward to make sure things are safely restarted. I think we're in a position to do that.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment? No? We can't hear you, Councillor Gordon.
I'm satisfied that our staff has a plan for safety in place. It's a complicated issue, obviously, with the rink and equipment, kids, parents, and all the rest of it. But it's an issue well worth achieving, I guess, to see these kids get back on the ice or in the pool or wherever. So I support it wholeheartedly. And I also think the meal program has really earned a pat on the back. The volunteers there have done a fantastic job for weeks and weeks now. So I wholeheartedly support that, continued support of that as well.
Thank you. That was a mover and seconder. Other comments? Deputy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through you, I support the motion to begin with, but I just want to also say thanks to staff for all the work that's been done to get the protocols in place, come up with all the discussions, and pull everything together to come up with a plan to be able to move ahead and hopefully draw the community back together again, and for providing a report. Although the report can read that because of the ors, there's so many options that it does look like it could have been taken to be, we wanted to keep it closed, But I appreciate the fact that we received all the information, all the options, and the financial burdens, because it is a council decision and council will have to find the money to be able to make sure this happens. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Parks, go ahead.
I too just wanted to say I will support this motion. I think it's a great opportunity to try to bring the community back together again. Just some things that I've noted in around our community here in the village of Bath is that Finkel Shore Park has been utilized quite a bit by families this year. The pavilion, of course, was off limits, but people are actually enjoying being outside. So it's nice to see that those facilities are going to be available.
Absolutely. Anyone else? I would like to add a couple points. As already been acknowledged, our staff have worked very hard to make sure that our facilities are prepared, are safe. We have protocols and cleaning plans and all of the rest of that in place. It's worth acknowledging the community groups, the hockey groups, the skating groups, the swimmers, all of them who have also done that homework for their own programs and are the strongest supporters of their own health. And that's a wonderful thing to see. I will make the comment, we still are under a declaration of emergency with regard to the pandemic. The emergency control group still has the authority. If we see a major spike, if we see widespread virus contaminations going on, we may have to make a sudden decision to make a change to this. However, the direction that the council seems to be taking is very well appreciated. We need the activity. We need it for mental health, for physical health. It's been noted already. It's wonderful to see everybody out playing in the parks, but to get that organized activity going will give us a sense of normalcy, which I greatly appreciate. So glad to see this moving forward. Back to the mover for final comment.
No final comment. Nope. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We move to item 12.3. We have a report from the director with regard to the Nicholson's Point Road petition. Do you have anything to add to this at this time, Ms. McFarland?
I do not, but Mr. Scott, the Public Works and Facilities Manager, will be speaking to this report.
I think, yeah, there he is. And welcome, Mr. Scott. Welcome back from vacation.
Thank you.
And yes, go ahead if you have something to add to this report.
So I just wanted to add for the Nicholson Point report that, as noted in the report, Public Works has been working to improve the overall quality of roads in the township, including trying different technologies. The next report on the agenda discusses the trial of some options for use on township surface treated roads that may be applicable to Nicholson Point as well in the future. And while it's too early to determine how that trial will work out, I would note that Nicholson Point may be an ideal location for the use of microsurfacing in the future when the road is scheduled to receive a single lift of surface treatment in the future. However, should that road be fully reconstructed, the microsurfacing would not likely be used until the following resurfacing. So I just wanted to be able, the residents to be aware. It's not that we're saying the road condition needs to stay exactly as it is. We're continuing to look for ways to improve our overall road services, our road levels of service going forward. But during that, through the development of that rural road improvement strategy, we think we can address many of the concerns of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Scott at the moment? Seeing none. And I look for a motion. This is for receive for information is the recommendation. Councillor Townend, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Porter. Any comments? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And I think you're likely going to stick around, Mr. Scott. Next report, as you mentioned, non-standard procurement initiative for microsurfacing. Would you like to speak to this, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I would like to add as well to this report that while it's discussed in the report, The cost benefit analysis and asset management portions of the new report format kind of got missed, being the first time through this report. And thank you to the mayor for pointing that out. Moving forward with the microservicing trial is done in accordance with the overall goals of the township's asset management plan. As noted in the report, the roads slated for inclusion in the trial were all reconstructed between 2 and 4 years ago. It is typically best practice that newly surface treated roads be resealed 3 years after their initial resurfacing before commencing an approximate resurfacing cycle of approximately 7 years. This trial is proposed within the current surface treatment budget. While proceeding through a normal procurement process, will add approximately 8% and at least 2 months time line, meaning that it likely would not be completed this year if we were to use the normal procurement process.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions with regard to this report? I see none. Do I have a motion to receive and approve? Deputy? So moved. Seconder? I'll take Councillor Porter. Deputy, any comment?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you. Seconder? No. Anyone else? All right. Were you looking for a last statement, Deputy Mayor?
No, I wasn't, but I'm just, again, thanks to staff for looking for technologies that we can use and partner with other, like with the county and everything, to be able to get reasonable rates. And this, hopefully this is an improvement and we're able to use it on more roads and it'll be a benefit.
Excellent. Thank you. With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Moving on to corporate services, the township clerk. We have a 13.1 is a proposed amendment to the procedural bylaw regarding electronic meetings and consideration for in-person meetings. We have a lengthy report and pulling it up. Several recommendations with ands and ors. I'll turn to the clerk. Do you wish to speak to this at this time?
I can just briefly, Your Worship, we did look at a number of different areas to bring it back in person. And we would just need to look at the Zoom platform and in person to see how well that will function. But the main thing would be to change our procedure bylaw. So the intent is, even if council goes to in person, the opportunity is there that we can allow for the continuation of electronic participation. There was a section in our current procedure bylaw. However, it did speak to quorum, and that's been changed with the new legislation. So that plus there was changes, that was discussed at a committee of the whole meeting in July that would be implemented in the procedure bylaw update as well. And then we would look at, discussion or direction of what council is looking for, of whether they're looking to resume in person and or to continue with Zoom going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Right. Council, do we have any questions with regard to this report and the procedures as we move forward? Councillor Porter, and then Councillor Nathan, Councillor Tannen. Councillor Porter?
Yes, so if we were to adopt number 4, then that meetings be transitioned to a hybrid combination of in-person. That would give people the opportunity then to choose whether they wanted to do it virtually or to attend. Is that the idea?
Through Your Worship, yes, it would be to see again whether the opportunity is there, of whether it's we can do the part that we're having trouble with is whether we have all of council come in, or whether there's a change with some council coming in and some council being off-site, just to the semantics, I guess, of the chair being able to keep track of those in attendance plus those electronically participating. So those are the things that we would want to test, but that would be the opportunity to have both.
Councillor Porter?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'll turn to Councillor Townend.
I was prepared to make a motion when you're ready.
Okay. Do we have any other questions before we go to a motion? I see none, so I will turn to Councillor Townend. Should I make a motion?
I move to receive the report and adopt recommendations 1, 4, and 5.
1, 4, and 5. Thank you. And so moved and seconded by Councillor Porter. And Councillor Townend, would you like to speak to it?
Yes. Am I unmuted? Yes, I am. Yeah, I just want to say that I think this is a good approach. It gives us the flexibility, particularly this fall. You know, if there are a spike in cases and we need to resume with Zoom, but I think resuming in-person meetings is extremely vital. It has been a blessing of our age that technological advances have enabled the continuation of council business during a time where without them it would have been virtually impossible. However, it is my view that good democratic process relies heavily on social interaction between members. Good debate and discourse are not amplified by this technology, they're rather restricted. What's more, legislative process by elected officials carries a certain weight that demands attention to its occasion, hence why we meet in designated chambers, which are ensconced with emblems that convey the dignity of the work. And whilst I know it is talk among all of us as citizens of what will or will not return to what it was prior to COVID-19, I'm determined that the function of our democratic institutions will not remain a work from home reality.
Thank you, Councillor Townend. Seconder, did you have comment?
Ditto.
Anyone else wish to comment on this? Deputy Mayor?
Actually, I have a question for clarification now.
Go ahead.
Number 4, I guess probably through to the clerk maybe would be the question for this. The way I read that, I took it that the procedural bylaw would be written that the normal process would be a hybrid meeting where members of council may or may not be in the chambers, and it would be a mix. Am I reading that correctly?
Through your worship, yes.
And so number 3 would be in person if it can happen. Am I interpreting that one correctly?
I think through your worship, 3 was just meant that, yes, it would be in person. And then we would still look at live streaming. So any of the meetings would be live streamed, but it would be an in-person.
Okay. Just one further one, your worship, if I may, through to the mover. Was that your intention? Was it, just from your comment, it sounded to me like your intention was that all of council would have been in the chambers for meetings, if at all possible, and that the combination would be if we run into another situation like we've had, or if there's a second wave.
Yeah, and that you know, for individual members of council, for various reasons. For example, if someone is a member of council is isolating for whatever reason, that they would be able to participate. My understanding from the report is that if we went for option 3 for in person, that there wouldn't be that flexibility. Hence my support of number 4.
If I just one final one, your worship, if that was the intention, could I suggest a friendly amendment that be included in the motion so that it's clear that it is expected to be, we anticipate going into live in-person meetings unless there's extenuating circumstances like that or something to that effect. Just for clarification, I'm looking for in the future.
And that's an amendment to the motion. I'll have to ask the mover if that is a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I see that as friendly, if the clerk understands the.
And I'll go to the clerk once I get confirmation. The seconder considers it a friendly amendment. Councillor Porter, you were the seconder?
I'm trying to figure out what we're talking about here, to be honest with you, because my understanding of number 4 is that the hybrid approach means that it could be either or. All council members could attend, or all council members could attend virtually. That it would be up to the individual member to decide whether they wanted to attend or not in person, depending on each individual circumstance. That's my understanding of the hybrid approach. Is that, am I understanding it correctly?
And as I understand the motion before us, including number 4, the hybrid would allow for council members to attend meetings electronically, but I believe the general intent is that most council meetings would take place in person. Simply, this clause simply allows for the option for council members to not be physically present in the room. And I'll just go back to the clerk to ensure that my understanding is correct.
Through your worship. So item 1 speaks to having the procedure bylaw amended to allow for the one-off, that if a council member was unable to attend in person, they could do so electronically. So that's item 1. Item 2 was basically saying that council, the idea would be that council would continue in this platform, that it would be all Zoom. And item 3, or section 3, was that the idea was that council would resume in person. Again, unless there was a situation where you couldn't and you had to use the section 1. And then 4 was that it was going to be a hybrid, that it would be allowing council members to decide whichever way they wanted to attend. So you could have some that were in person and you could have some that were electronically.
Does that provide the clarity as needed for this motion?
It does provide the clarity for the original motion, but I need Deputy Mayor to explain his friendly amendment suggestion again, please.
Deputy?
Certainly. Through you. From what I was getting, the intent of the movers motion was that the hybrid would be available if it was required, but the routine meetings, if everyone is able to attend, it would be in person. So that's where I was just looking for clarification. And also my friendly amendment was just to add, to make it clear that that's what we were looking to do. So I guess what I was thinking is, if someone, like was mentioned, if someone was in isolation, they could still come in virtually. If everyone was feeling well and we weren't in a pandemic, we were able to meet all the requirements, then we would have live. A very wordy explanation, I apologize.
Yeah, it's I think it's a moot point myself. I think the number 4 does that, as explained by the clerk already. That's my understanding.
Just for procedural clarity, we have a motion listing number 1, 4, and 5. Okay. And moved and seconded. We had a request for an amendment. The mover has said that he accepts that as a friendly amendment to include phrasing that by this conversation might be unnecessary, might be included in other parts of the resolution. I'll come back to the mover. Are you accepting the change to the resolution?
Yes, that's fine. I mean, I think if it adds greater clarity to what is implicit in the report for everybody's benefit, then absolutely.
Okay, and I'll go to the seconder. Are you accepting that as a friendly amendment?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So, just for the last bit of clarity, I will ask the clerk if she has the wording appropriate for the amendment.
Through your worship. So my understanding is that the intent is that council will be meeting in person if they can. And we're still going to go ahead and allow the, or make the changes in the procedural bylaw to allow for electronic participation should that need arise. So which would then mean that it's a hybrid.
Yes. So the intent is for in-person meetings. The available procedures are there for a hybrid if necessary. Okay, so we have clarity. Right. Mover and seconder have accepted that. That is the motion that's before us. And I also saw Councillor Park's hand up at one point. No, it's been explained. Anyone else have a question or comment with regard to the motion? Seeing none, back to the mover final. No, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. And the clerk, go ahead.
Through your worship, we'll draft the wording, and then when it comes before council, if the wording's not clear, then we can make amendments at that time as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that will come to a future meeting, I believe on the 14th. Item 13.2, that's the item has been removed, if I recall correctly. Thank you. Then we move forward to item 14.1, proposed delegation of authority responsibilities. We have a report from the Director Merritt, and she is here. Does you wish to add anything to this report at this time?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I do not have anything to add with respect to this report.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions for clarity or understanding? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, in the report under, sorry, I have to find it. Just a second. I can't find it, but I remember what it said. It said that the risks, I apologize, financial report. Anyway, somewhere in the report, you identify a risk that council would no longer have the ability to approve these minor amendments or this change that you're proposing. But my question to you is that an accurate statement, in as much as that if staff decide to decline a request, that does not have, the applicant does no longer have the ability to come forward to council to have that request reviewed by council? I'm going to find it here. This is how it reads. It says the implication is that council would no longer having the ability to approve minor amendments to approve draft plans of subdivision. Like, because we're delegating authority, my question is, does that mean we're removing our authority?
So I believe, Mr. Winnick, you can answer this, but I believe that if there is a, if it's a denial of approval, it could go back to council. Bowden, do you want to clarify?
Yeah, that's correct through you, Mr. Chair, that authority would still be there. In those instances where there's a discrepancy, staff do not agree to accept the revisions as minor, that would allow staff to go to council for the final say.
That would not allow or would allow?
Would allow.
Would allow. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions with regard to this report and the delegation of authority? None? Okay. Mover, Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Move to receive and adopt recommendations.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Mover, comment?
No.
Seconder? Anyone else? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving to item 14.2, which I believe Councillor Porter has declared a conflict on. Okay. We have a report coming from the director. Ms. Merritt, do you wish to add to this report at this time?
No, Your Worship, nothing to add.
Thank you. All right. Council, do we have questions with regard to the report? No questions? Oh, Deputy, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted, just for clarification, I want to make sure I've got this straight. On page 6 there, it's got sub options A, B, and C. So the way I read this, after staff have gone through the preliminary work and had some discussions, another report would come back with recommendations to which option would be taken. Am I correct on that?
I believe we have Ms. Campbell coming on.
Ms. Campbell, yeah, she was quicker than me on the mute button. I'll let her answer.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you for the question. Through you, Your Worship. Yes, that would be the intent.
Okay. And I just, if I may, one more, Your Worship. Further down on page 6, it has a statement that says, if council wishes, this work could be included in the 2021 budget. I'm just curious, the work for Emma Street or the preliminary work in Bridge Street would be in 2021?
Through you, Your Worship, the intent of that statement was that the Bridge Street work could be included in 2021 in order to facilitate the Emma Street work moving forward sooner if council wished. So the Emma Street work could not move forward until the Bridge Street work was complete because we need the stormwater outlet on Bridge Street.
Okay, so that's just there if we want to move the Emma project ahead, the Bridge Street would have to go first. Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions from council? And just a point of clarity, the work on Bridge Street would be at the township's cost completely ahead of the local area improvement plan that would come into effect for Emma?
That's correct. The work on Bridge Street is planned under the general rate budget.
Thank you. Okay. That's all the questions there are. Do we have a mover and seconder for this report? Just going back up to my recommendations. It's a long report. We have 4 recommendations there. Council? Oh, Deputy, go ahead.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendations.
1 through 4, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Townend, thank you. Deputy, any comments?
No, this just allows the process to get started so we know where we're going to move ahead in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Townend, any comments? Anyone else? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving to 14.3, and can we invite Councillor Porter back in for this? There she is. Okay. Item 14.3, we have the Climate Action Plan Community Update Report from the Director. Director, do you wish to speak to this, or do you have staff that wish to speak to it?
No further comments on this report. If there's specific question, I believe Mr. Masrani is here to answer as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Council, do we have questions with regard to this report? None? Councillor Townend.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Your Worship, when the time.
Thank you. I think I saw Councillor Porter's hand go up. Did you have a question, Councillor Porter?
No, I was going to move it, but go ahead, Councillor Townend.
Okay, just making sure there's no questions. I'll take a motion from Councillor Townend then.
Motion to receive the report and adopt the recommendation.
And second by Councillor Porter. Thank you. And any final comments?
Sure.
And do you have comment, Councillor Townend?
I do.
Go ahead. Please do.
Yeah, I just want to thank the staff involved in the preparation of the report and those named in it who have been diligently working on developing the way forward for our climate action plan. Obviously, as a member of the working group, I'm familiar and supportive of its ask tonight. To add the necessary political context, there is an inescapable recognition that although life will never again return to exactly what it was prior to COVID-19, that perhaps in many ways it shouldn't, as the pandemic's revealed to us glaring problems in our way of life, economically, socially, and of course, environmentally. And the appropriate political discussions taking place across all levels of government now center on the fundamental questions of how to create a better, more just, more equitable recovery from this pandemic. And such a recovery cannot be limited to the economic, when all aspects of human life are deeply interwoven, not least of all our dependence on the natural world. So a just and good recovery from COVID-19 must therefore include serious attention to climate action and justice, something that we as a township identified prior to COVID-19, but something which the pandemic should bring further forward in our mind, not further back. Public input is vital in any and all efforts to build a lasting action plan, and the initiatives listed in the report dovetail with the general enthusiasm for change in a COVID and post-pandemic world that I've just referred to. So this is an opportune time combined with the reality, of course, that the planet doesn't wait, and strongly suggests we must continue to plot our course ahead with haste and focus. Therefore, I commend the recommendation to Council.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And motion is carried. And moving to item 14.4. Again, Councillor Porter has declared conflict on this. Right, we have a report from Director Merritt. Do you have anything to add to it at this time?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regards to this one? Seeing none, I look for a motion. Councillor Tannen, second by Councillor Proderick. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we can invite Councillor Porter back in as we move to, there's nothing in Emergency Services Department. Communications for consideration. We have 16.1, request from Mad Canada. Council, do you have any comments or questions before I look for a motion? None. Somebody want to make a motion with regard to the Mad Canada request? Deputy Mayor.
Move to receive and support.
Move to receive and support. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Proderick, thank you. Deputy, would you like to comment?
It's just a very worthwhile cause, and it supports many of the initiatives that come up with this item. So that's why I want to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Proderick, comment? No. Anyone else? No? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. 16.2, we have a request from Bon Evans. A number of items in his request. Council, how would you like to react to that communication? Councillor Porter?
I'll move to receive the request.
Move to receive. And do I have a seconder for that? I see Deputy Mayor. And Councillor Porter, would you like to comment? Can't hear you.
Sorry, my apologies. I believe we already approved the request number 1 on the list of requests, and I think the other requests listed need further further information.
That'll go to staff. Thank you. Deputy, you were the seconder?
Yes, I was. I agree with Councillor Porter's, and the other one thing is item number 3 should actually be a provincial is on the provincial highway in that section. So it would actually be the province that would review and make a decision on that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment on that, on this report, on this request? Councillor Parks.
So I just wanted to mention that I think item number 2 on this request would be something that would be exciting for the village to entertain, or the township to entertain. Recycling, definitely there's a need for that at Finkel Shores, and speeding on Church Street. I live on Church Street, so I can definitely attest to the situation where people come around the corner at the lights, and next thing you know, they're doing like 80 kilometers an hour going up the street. So definitely there would be something that would need to be investigated with that. So maybe it's something that reports could come back from staff on those items.
Absolutely. And this is a motion to receive for information, so it will be as the deputy pointed out, the request for a change of speed is a provincial matter. The recycling bins would go to our Public Works Department. The speeding would also be Public Works, would involve the OPP for analysis as well. So there's a number of factors. I would also note that for number 2, we did earlier tonight approve the reopening of the special events permits, so that might end up falling under that category as well. So receiving for information, I think, is quite appropriate. Anyone else have comment? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving to item 17, are there any notices of motion or direct motion? I'll go to the deputy.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a direct motion that with the opening of the schools and students encouraged to eat outdoors when weather permits, that I move that Loyalist Township loan picnic tables for high school students' use when available. And I'll speak to it if once it's seconded.
And I'll receive that as a motion and accept it as a direct motion with the timing. And I see a few seconders, so I'll go with Councillor Porter. And I'll go back to the mover for comment.
Yes, this is the high school is reopening, and with the with them wanting the students to be able to maintain their distancing and eat outdoors whenever possible, and the high school can use the picnic tables, put them to good use while the weather permits. So if we have available ones, then it makes sense to share them and help the schools stay safe as well.
Thank you. Seconder, did you have comment? Anyone else? Councillor Proderick.
I think it's a great idea, and it's actually something I'm going to bring up in members' privilege. So I think it's fantastic that you brought that up, Jim.
Thank you. And anyone else? And the clerk has clarity on the motion. Thank you. And then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Are there any other notices of motion or direct motion? Seeing none, I'll move to the consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and expediting meetings, hard to say that at 9:30, matters of business that are repetitive or routine in nature are included in the consent agenda. All such matters of business are contained in the consent agenda, are voted on collectively. Any particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or separate vote upon the request of any member of council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. Okay. So we have the consent agenda before us. Is there any items that we wish to separate? Deputy, go ahead.
I would request that we separate item 22.2, the TAPMO executive meeting minutes.
22.2, thank you. Any others? Seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda set without item 22.2. So moved by Councillor Porter, seconded by Deputy. Thank you. And any comments on any of the items in the consent agenda?
No.
And anyone? No? I'll call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we go to item 22.2 as separated. Brought forward by the deputy. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes. These are just the minutes of the TAPMO meeting that I'm the executive on. And but on page 3, there's actually a request for support of a motion. So I would, if no one else has any questions, I'm prepared to make a motion on it.
And with that presented communication, do we have any questions likely answered by the deputy with regard to that? Seeing none, and just for procedural clarity to the clerk, we have item 22.2 as a separated item in the consent agenda. Do we need to receive it first and then go to his motion? No, we can, okay. And go ahead, deputy.
So I move to receive the TAPMO executive minutes of May 28th with attachments, and further to support the motion on page 3. And I'll speak to it if once it's seconded.
Thank you. So moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter, thank you. Mover, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be brief. There's been a couple of presentations I've seen on this, and basically what it boils down to is once aggregate producing land is zoned for aggregate production, it's assessed as a class 5 farmland, no matter where it is or what the previous value of it was. And it could be argued be industrial, but it may have been more valuable than class 5 in the previous, before it was wanting to be open for aggregate extraction. So what this is saying is that basically that MPAC assess the land at the value that it actually is and not automatically a class 5.
Understood. Thank you. Any seconder, do you have comment?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with our deputy mayor that these type of properties need to be assessed equitably and based on what their actual use is, and not just a classification that is a long overdue review.
Thank you. Other comments from council? Seeing none, the clerk has a question.
Just for clarification, Your Worship, so the resolution will be to receive and then it'll be the whereas previous so that gets a full resolution within, not the supporting of it. Just wanted that clarity.
I believe that's the intention of the deputy. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you.
The
And
clerk
we'll
will
fill
make
in the
sure.
blanks to put our name in.
Thank you.
And any final comments? Back to the mover. No. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And that was, sorry, little technical glitch here. I just lost my agenda. Hang on a second, guys.
Members' privilege, Your Worship.
And I believe we come to members' privilege. Thank you very much. I'm still not scrolled down. And I'll start with Councillor Proderick for under members' privilege.
Certainly. This is an email I was sent a week or so ago. I did forward it on to you, Your Worship, as well as the CAO, but I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. And this goes back to the Deputy Mayor's idea of picnic tables for the high school. And just reads, Dear Councillor Proderick, the staff and management would like to acknowledge and thank Loyalist Township for providing our amazing staff with additional outdoor seating for the well-deserved breaks outdoors. Universal masking and PPE requirements to keep residents and staff safe. Make the staff's time outdoors an important release from the wonderful care they provide to during these difficult times. The additional seating provided to make this enjoyable is greatly appreciated by the staff and management at the home. We are happy to feel supported by Loyalist Township during these unprecedented times. Thank you and stay safe. Sue Reynolds, who is the Director of Care at Helen Henderson, just helping their staff out.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else to bring up under members' privilege? Councillor Townend. We can't hear you, Councillor Townend.
There we go. Okay, good. I'd just like to report back to colleagues on council and to the public on a successful AMO conference last week. I must say a compliment to AMO. The conference was very well done. I wasn't sure what to expect under the circumstances of COVID, of course, but the platform was very intuitive and the programming was very worthwhile under the circumstances. And I'd like to thank staff and in particular the CAO for his preparation of the relevant briefing notes for our delegations. And I'd like to compliment the mayor on what were very well articulated representations of the issues that are important to us, to those relevant ministers.
I thank you for the compliment and echo your appreciation of the staff and the AMO conference as a whole. And while we're at it, I will throw in a thank you to our deputy for stepping in during one of the delegations when my technology suddenly failed on me. And the deputy was very able to step in and continue that delegation. So greatly appreciated. And anything else under members' privilege? Seeing no one. Where am I? Upcoming meeting dates are posted. We have the Committee of Adjustment scheduled for the 8th, as well as a Committee of the Whole meeting for that day. And then regular council will be on the 14th. Which brings us to the confirmatory bylaw. And anyone wish to make a motion? And Councillor Porter wants to go home. So moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. Right. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Proderick, seconded by Councillor Gordon. Right. Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned, folks. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your evening.